grown man business. Priceless experiences, Napa Valley, Bron tasting, spoiling my women friends. Sitting at the table with millionaires. The narrative is tax loops, accounts offshore squares. It's not allowed.
We are live, we are live, we are live. Welcome back to Coin Game. To all my family out there, what's good? You already know when you come through. You already know what to do. Go ahead and drop a 1, drop a 2. Let me know we good out there in internet world. We follow a strict philosophy over here of top shelf or nothing. So if you can see me, press 1. And if you can hear me, go ahead and press 2. I like to see the 12 in the chat. And that'll let me know that we are staying true and we are staying on code to our philosophy of top shelf or nothing. This is the #1 home for personal development. This is where you come ordinary and you leave extraordinary. You come in one way and you leave a better way. If you don't know me, my name is Ken Billions. Hello out there. When you come in the chat, if I don't know you, say your name, make your presence felt. This is ministry for the abstract thinkers. And it's a safe space for everybody out there with that out the box philosophy. If you have children, keep your babies close to you, right? The world ain't crazy, but it is. And I want you to keep your babies close to you. And if you got somebody that is very important in your life, be patient with each other. Try not to get on each other's nerves because this thing that we call life is very, very, very tricky. All right. If you are on Facebook, you should be in the chat with that supporter badge, right? You should be in the chat with that supporter badge. So go ahead and like and get your supporter badge right now if you're on Facebook. All right. If you're on YouTube, the super chat is your friend, right? Oh, Sunday after the Super Bowl, Sunday night for my members, we will continue our conversation with the art and science of personal magnetism. So we will pick up and go to I think it's chapter 9 through 11. We'll be doing that in our private group for all of my members. So that will happen Sunday night. My book of the day today is based on the topic that we're going to touch today, right? It's a very, very good book. I got this book over 10 years ago, and I think I'm going to read it again. But it's definitely a book that I recommend to all the fellas out there. You know what I mean? This book is bulletproof. My book of the day is Way of the Superior Man. I might do a book club read with this for the guys, like a guy conversation, right? This book, I got it 10 years ago. I think I want to go through it again, but I definitely recommend this book. It is in line with our topic today, and I may do a book club or something for the guys so we can read this thing together because I believe that this book can definitely be of service. It was a great book. I got this. I found the receipt, and the receipt was from 2012, right? So I definitely had to knock the dust off of it, but I recommend it to you. And this is called Way of the Superior Man. And that is my book of the day. And the author is David Deida, right? It looks like this. Way of the Superior Man. I definitely recommend this book, and it is in line with our topic, right? Today. All right. So today we are talking about the hero's journey. All right. We're talking about grammar and glamour. All right. Grammar and glamour. Okay. So we're talking about the hero's journey, and we're talking about grammar and glamour. We're talking about courage, having courage, and we are talking about mama's milk. Yeah. All right. You hear what we're talking about? The hero's journey. We're going to talk about grammar and glamour. Grammar and glamour sounds the same, right? Because they are. They do the same thing, especially to a man. We're going to talk about courage, and we are going to talk about mama's milk. Today is a conversation for guys. And like we did with the art and science of personal magnetism, that was a series. This is also going to be a series called Man Sharpens Man. Women can listen, but it is a conversation for men. All right. So today's conversation for Man Sharpens Man is the hero's journey. If you've been rocking with me for a minute, then I'm sure you've heard me say this title. Today, we're going to get surgical with it to find out exactly what is the hero's journey and why is the hero's journey important, right? So I'm sure you heard me say you got to go on the hero's journey. You got to do the work, the shadow work, the hero's journey, blah, blah, blah. Today, we're going to discuss what that is. We're going to get more in depth. We're going to get surgical. This is a conversation straight at the heart of the fellas. So if you got sons, we'll keep the adult language to a minimum. If you got brothers, you definitely want to put something in the air and listen to this with your comrade. Send this to your homies. Men definitely share this video amongst each other, but not just men. If you're in a relationship with a man, this is a conversation that you should put right on his lap. All right. You guys ready? So this is our part 1 to Man Sharpens Man, and it is the hero's journey. I'm gonna show you a picture real quick, and in the chat, you tell me what the picture means to you, right? All right, you ready? So I'm gonna post this picture up in the chat, and I want you to tell me what the picture means to you specifically, all right? What does this picture mean to you specifically? When you see this, how do you feel? What do you think? Right? When you see this picture right here, what is it comes to your mind? Right? What's the first thing that you think? Right? Anybody? Does this picture make you think anything? Does this picture make you feel anything? Right? Okay. See potential. Yeah, me too. Right? I see a lot of potential. Right? Okay. Putting his best foot forward. Okay. Definitely see potential though. Right? See the mystery, unlocked talent. Right? What we got? Focused. Yeah, for sure. Future leader, for sure. Scholarship. See scholarship. But I like the potential one though, right? When I look at this picture, I definitely see potential. It's definitely a nice look. Okay. So it looks like there's a class full of boys. And if these boys were asked, what do they want to be when they grow up? You're going to hear a plethora of different things. You're going to hear police officer. You're going to hear fireman. You're going to hear biologist. Somebody might want to play football. Somebody might want to play basketball, right? Somebody might want to, who knows, be an astronaut. But you're going to hear a lot of different things, right? Because they're innocent at this stage right here. So the possibilities of what they can become is endless, right? Same thing with him. If you ask him, what does he want to be, right? If you ask him, what does he want to be, the possibilities are endless. He's going to say everything. I want to be an FBI agent. I want to be a dancer. I want to be an author. You know, I want to travel to the North Pole. I want to, go to Mars with Elon Musk. You never know, because this is the child stage. So the mind is just going to wander and wander. So these kids, both of these boys right here, if you ask them what they're going to be, right, they'll tell you a lot of different things. But there's something they're not going to tell you that they want to be, though. There's something that they're not going to tell you that they want to be. They'll tell you a lot of different things. They'll tell you a surgeon. They'll tell you a dentist. They'll tell you different professions. But there's something that they're not going to say that they want to be. These boys, him and him, what you're not going to hear out of their mouth is that they want to be a man. You'll hear these boys, these two boys right here, say they want to be a lot of professions, but they're not going to say that they want to be a man, though. Because a man is not looked at as an achievement, like a surgeon or a basketball player, even though the man part comes first, right? The man part is the vehicle that allows those other things to flourish, not the other way around. But when these boys raise their hand and they think about their future, being a man is not going to be on it, because it's assumed that a man is something that you just become already, and it's not. Because if you have to study to be a surgeon, if you have to study to be a dentist, if you have to pass the bar to be a lawyer, and you have to go through years and years of study to achieve those dope ass titles, well, manhood is also requires that same attention. Manhood requires that same discipline, and it requires that same study. This is why you'll never hear a boy say, I want to be a man, because being a man is not equated with achievement. It's just assumed that it's a biological process, right? But there's a lot of things that stop that process of becoming a man. A lot of different things, right? The process from male to man, we get thrown a lot of curveballs. We get thrown a lot of different things. There's one primary thing that I want to talk to you about that hurts the male to man process, right? Now, I don't want any of the ladies to get offended, but I told you it's a conversation for men. There's a thing that stops the process from male to man, right? Right? There's something that stops the process, right? So if those boys that I showed you raised their hand and they said, you know what? I want to be a man. There's something right in their face that is going to hinder them. It helped them develop, but it becomes a hindrance later, and that's mama's milk. Mama's milk becomes a detriment to the male to man process. Mama's milk ends up tripping the male in his process to become a man. Mama's milk is thinking that it is helping the male, but it is handicapping the male, right? Mama's milk gave us life when we were babies. Mama's milk nurtured us and raised us. Some of us. Others didn't have mama's milk, right? So while some were on mama's nipple, others had to drink this right here, right? So this is an extreme disconnect from mama, right? So even though mama's milk can be handicapping, what do you think what do you think this does to the brain? And many of us was raised on this right here, right? This was put in our mouth as babies. And then when you see the males acting wild and out of character and just going crazy, no one ever asked, well, what do they eat? What are they fed? Right? Because a lot of the mamas wasn't ready to be moms, right? So their milk dried up, right? They didn't study that before the child got here. So this is what ended up feeding the male child. What is in this that is good enough for a child? I've never seen a calf drink this. I've never seen no animal in the world drink this. Every animal child goes to its mother's nipple if it's a mammal. But I've never seen a mammal outside of a human being drink this. And then we ask, what's wrong with these boys? Really? Right? So this is an extreme disconnect from mama. Have you ever thought about that the mommy issues that male children have Could it possibly be the issue that male children have with their mothers is the fact that their mothers didn't feed them? Have you ever fathomed that? Huh? You think mommy issues just starts in the teenage years, right? Mommy issues start the moment mommy puts powder in that bottle and feeds the child. Mommy issues start the moment when that child does not go to its mother's nipples for food. Yeah, it's not going to be a lot of comments in the chat on this right here because many of you fed your children this right here. Right? Many of you are doing it now. Many of you were raised on it, but when you know better, you do better, right? No judgment. But this is why we have to extend grace when we see people's behavior questionable, because what is at the root of their behavior, right? A mother deer gives birth, and those babies automatically are wired to go to the nipple. A mother dog gives birth and the baby automatically goes to the nipple. Same with a cat, right? Same with every mammal. When it gives birth, the child already knows to go to the nipple. But the human baby, the male specifically, he gets cut off from mama, right? So you might want to think about that, right? When you are talking about young male behavior, are these males even breastfed, right? This is a super important thing to think about for a sec. You got to extend some grace, right? Many of us drank this, and this is a disconnect from mama. Now, there was also a problem too. Now, many of us that did get breastfed, the problem with that is many of us stayed on the nipple too long. And guess what happened? Now, the women that we meet in our lives put us back on the nipple. See, because mama's milk was important for our development, but after a while, we have to get off the titty. Because after a while, we begin to see the world through mama's eyes. And when we begin to see the world through mama's eyes, we begin to feel how she feels about things too, right? We begin to internalize all of mama's stuff, right? And there's something missing. There's a mental development that is missing. And guess what happens when we stay on mama's titty too long? The women that we meet in our lives become mama, right? There's no husband and wife. There's no girlfriend and boyfriend. Though your girlfriend is mama. Look at this man. This is a picture. It's a meme, but it's real. It's real though, right? Many males have never even experienced their woman for real, outside of a mother and son relationship. And that's because those that were breastfed stayed on mama's milk too long. And there is a psychological part about mama's milk where it's not necessarily milk, but conceptually it's something going on in the brain that mama has control over the male son. The topic of today is the hero's journey. And to fully go on the journey, there has to be a separation between the male child and mama's milk. Now, depending on what community you come from, there is a narrative that the woman should build the man up. This is what that means. Look at this picture. Building up how? Right? Through the milk, through the nipple, right? The man has to go back on the nipple because the man is actually a man child. He's physically big and strong, but the psychological development is off. He still sees the world through mama's eyes, and he's looking for a second mama, right? This has happened to many of us without us even knowing it. Because what does it mean for our women to build us up? What does that mean? Build us up how? Internally. Because there's something off, right? What would she be building up? Right? Emotions, self-esteem, confidence. That's mama's milk, right? So the woman and the man don't even get to experience the romance part of the relationship. The woman and the man don't get to experience what the relationship could be because there's a handicap going on for the male that wasn't able to get off mama's milk, right? And as he grows and ages, mama still plays a role in his life. She still has input on the way that he sees the world, and that's a problem, right? To go on the hero's journey, all of us, no disrespect or shade to the mothers, but we must let mama go, though. I had to do it. I didn't even know that I had a relationship in that way with mama in my adult years, but I did, though, right? Mama's milk wasn't what I needed, and mama's milk was handicapping me. Mama's milk was stopping me from developing. It was very hard for me to let mama go because when I let mama go, that would put me in the real world. When I let mama go, that would put me in the position to go out and define and see the world on my own terms. What is this thing to me, not to mama, right? See, now this is the importance of father. See, I didn't need a father when I was a little boy. I need a father now. See, mama's milk was enough when I was little, right? Mama's milk was enough when we're little boys, right? But the fathering part is a mental thing, right? So as you grow, you need a father now to help you read signs and symbols, to help you understand when the seasons are changing, not just in nature, but in our relationships, right? How to go out and compete and get things to bring back, the blueprint to start a family. And in some instances, that's where you get your startup capital from. But that's another topic that we'll touch later. We're on mama's milk right now, right? So we're going to watch a video real quick. Do you guys understand what I mean by getting off of the titty and letting mama go? And this is definitely no shade to the ladies. Y'all definitely play a role in a man's life. But when you get caught in the mother-son dynamic, the relationship tends to get thrown off. And that's because of the staying on the titty way too long. And then the woman that you meet out in the world becomes mama, and then she sticks a bottle right back in the man's mouth, and he's being handicapped. So he's physically strong, he's big, he can knock people out, he got a beard, he got sexual prowess, but up here, he's a man child, right? So we about to watch a video, man. Check this out. This is touching on the topic right here. Let mama go, okay? Let mama go. You gotta let mama go. I had to do it. We all gotta do it so we can move on. You gotta let mama go. Press 1 if you can hear this.
Cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore.
Fair use.
Marie-Louise von Franz, a Swiss psychologist, noticed a disturbing trend in the mid-20th century. Many men and women who were well into their adult years remained psychologically stunted in their maturation. They occupied the bodies of adults, but their mental development failed to keep pace. Von Franz saw this as such a pressing issue that in 1959 she gave a series of lectures on the psychology of the puer aeternus, which is Latin for eternal child. While originally this term was used in mythology to refer to a child god who remains forever young, Her teacher Carl Jung had adopted the term for psychological purposes to describe the individual who, like Peter Pan, fails to grow up. In one of her lectures, von Franz describes the puer aeternus as the individual who remains too long in adolescent psychology. That is, all those characteristics that are normal in a youth of 17 or 18 are continued into later life, coupled in most cases with too great a dependence on the mother. Von Franz predicted that in the coming decades what she called the problem of the puer aeternus would spread across the world and affect more and more individuals. Her predictions have proven remarkably accurate, especially among the male population of the Western world. Many young men are struggling academically, socially, spiritually, financially, and sexually. They are living at home into their late 20s and 30s, choosing to remain in the comforting confines of their parents' care rather than testing the unknown waters of independence. Instead of striving to create something of themselves, many prefer the familiar and comfortable virtual worlds of internet, pornography, and video games. They are passive wanderers in life with no path or purpose, save the pursuit of momentary pleasure to ease their suffering. Based on the scope of this problem, it would not be far-fetched to claim that the problem of the puer aeternus is the primary neurosis of the modern age. The purpose of this course is to provide an antidote to those who suffer from this problem. To do this, we are going to provide an in-depth psychological analysis of the puer aeternus, and building on insights from Carl Jung, Soren Kierkegaard, von Franz, and others, provide practical advice on how to commence on a more responsible, enriching, successful, and independent life path. Before we examine the psychology of the puer aeternus, it is necessary to take note of the conditions which have given rise to this social problem. And toward this end, we must discuss how a strong mother complex stunts the maturation of many today. For as von Franz notes, a man who has a mother complex will always have to contend with his tendencies toward becoming a puer aeternus. Throughout our evolutionary history, the mother and father have assumed different parental roles. Mothers have always interacted with their children more than fathers. They maintain more physical contact and are more nurturing, comforting, and empathetic to the physical and emotional pains and needs of the child. This extremely intimate and close relationship with the mother figure creates in the child a lasting emotional mark, or a highly resistant psychological bond psychologists call a mother complex. The child's experience of the mother, writes James Hollis, is internalized as a complex, an emotionally charged cluster of energy beyond the control of the ego. Fathers do not create this same bond of dependency with the child. Instead, their role has traditionally been to provide the developing child with resources and protection, but just as importantly with guidance. More specifically, the role of the father has been to help the child break free from their bond of dependency with the mother, and so help him emerge into the world as an independent and functional adult. In most cultures throughout history, individuals transitioned from adolescence to adulthood with the help of initiatory rites of passage. The primary goal of all initiatory rites of passage, cross-culturally, was to separate the youth from his mother, first physically and then psychologically. These rites were performed shortly after the onset of puberty, and were instituted solely by the elder males of the tribe, the cultural fathers. Women were generally banned from observing or participating in these rituals. A typical rite of passage, as explained by Mircea Eliade in his book Rites and Symbols of Initiation, proceeded as follows. In the middle of the night, the cultural fathers of the tribe, dressed as gods or demons, would snatch the youth from his bed. This was the last time the youth would see his mother, sometimes for months. The youth would be taken to a deep cave, buried alive, or else plunged into some other sort of literal or symbolic darkness. This stage represented the symbolic death of the youth's childhood, the loss of paradise and the joys of irresponsibility. It was meant to convey to the youth the message, "You can't go home again." Following the symbolic death of childhood, a ceremony of rebirth would be performed, marking the young adult's transformation to a more mature state of being. He was subsequently taught by the elders the wisdom and knowledge of the tribe, and then sent off into the wilderness, where he would spend many months alone struggling for his survival. Upon his successful return, he was welcomed back into the tribe as an adult member. The youth, from that point on, was expected to have overcome his mother complex. Immaturity and dependency were no longer acceptable. Given the intensity and sometimes violent nature of these initiation processes, it appears as if our ancestors understood that separating a young boy from his mother was a monumental task requiring deliberate measures. In the West today, there is no equivalent for these rites of passage. It has often been said, notes Mircea Eliade, that one of the characteristics of the modern world is the disappearance of any meaningful rites of initiation. Lacking cultural fathers and rites of initiation, the youth today must turn to their personal father to provide them with initiation into adulthood. But unfortunately, not all fathers can supply their children with this guidance. For to do so, the father must be strong and independent himself and emotionally present in the child's life. He must be able to show, by example, that there is something worth seeking and struggling for in this world. For to successfully encourage a young man to break from the comforts of childhood, he needs to be convinced there is somewhere worth going. Sons also need to watch their father in the world, writes James Hollis. They need him to show them how to be in the world, how to work, how to bounce back from adversity. They need the activation of their inherent masculinity, both by outer modeling and by direct affirmation. In his book Finding Our Fathers, Sam Ocheron cites an expansive study in which only 17% of American men reported having a positive relationship with their father during their youth. In most cases, the father was physically or emotionally absent. Reflecting on this statistic, the psychotherapist James Hollis writes, "If this amazing statistic is even close to the truth, something large and tragic has happened to one of the critical balances of nature. A disruption in the critical balance of human nature is exactly what has happened. We live in the epoch of the absent father, and many suffer greatly as a result. Young men are expected to leave the comforts of home, to overcome their mother complex, and to sculpt a life worth living, all without the psychological support of a father. Is it any wonder that the problem of the puer aeternus is so prominent in our time? But the effects of an absent father are worsened by the impact this situation has on the mother. For it produces a situation where, firstly, the mother tends to become more authoritative in her parenting to compensate for the lack of a masculine figure in the child's life. And secondly, a failure on the part of the father to provide the mother with love and support creates in her an emotional hunger, which she attempts to satiate through her relationship with her child. This situation creates the perfect storm, whereby the mother becomes what Jungians call a devouring mother. She overprotects and smothers her child and becomes involved in every aspect of his life. It is often the case that such a mother, despite having the best intentions, unconsciously manipulates her child into remaining dependent on her well into adulthood, and it is often the case that the child willingly complies. Behold the secret conspiracy between mother and son, writes Jung, and how each helps the other to betray life. A child brought up in this manner, and thus never granted the opportunity to venture out on his own, to stand up for himself, to fail and fix his own mistakes, or to make decisions for himself, will develop into an adult crippled in his capacity to endure and overcome the inevitable challenges and struggles of life. The healthy desire to adapt himself to reality and to individuate, both of which entail fear, pain, and conflict, will be replaced by his need to remain bounded to his mother, whether it be his personal mother or a symbolic substitute in the world. If he does not remain dependent on his biological mother, he may desperately seek to find in other women a nurturing replacement, or else lose himself in the comforting embrace of an addiction. In other words, when a child emerges into adulthood with a strong mother complex, he will not seek to develop his independence and evolve his consciousness, but rather will be possessed by what Jung called the spirit of regression, which threatens us with bondage to the mother and with dissolution and extinction in the unconscious. He will find himself in the service of sleep, and not the battle of life. He hopes to be caught, sucked in, enveloped, and devoured, writes Jung. He seeks, as it were, the protecting, nourishing, charmed circle of the mother, the condition of the infant released from every care. No wonder that the real world vanishes from sight. In the next video, we'll provide an in-depth analysis of this.
Gotta let mama go. You probably didn't even know that you was still on the titty, because that's mama, right? But you gotta let mama go though, because the hero's journey awaits. Now, everything that was said right there was spot on, and it's very spot on depending on what kind of community that you come from. If you come from an urban environment, that's spot on, right? Where the mother and the son have a romance going on, not physical romance, but that's her man. He's her woman, right? We stay on the titty too long because look at the behavior of males from our urban environment. They're not above the neck. And I understand, because being on the titty too long, and this right here, this is what the relationships look like, right? You find a woman, you guys are going good, and then you need that milk again, right? And she becomes the substitute, right? And then we repeat narratives without thinking about it. Yeah, your woman is supposed to build you up. Listen to that for a second. Build you up. So what were you when you came? Right? Right? You can't build your man up, ladies. Right? You might have things going on with yourself too, right? And honestly, if you take on that role, that's an act of war, because you are handicapping that man. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say words of affirmations and be kind and supportive. No. But build your man up is exactly what you see in this picture, right? Something is off in the psychological development of the male. And it starts because of the being delayed on mama's titty. But every man has to let mama go. I had to let mama go. It's a mental thing, right? Got to remember, we come from women. So it's always going to be a sore spot, right? We got a navel, right? So our umbilical cord was attached to mama. And the hardest thing is to let mama go, right? To move on. Because if not, we see the world through mama's eyes, right? How mama felt about something, right? We feel about something. We have mama's religion. We have mama's God, right? We have mama's fears, right? Everything about mama we had, right? Now you take the good, because that's mama, right? You take the love that she shared. Hopefully you had that. You take the love that she shared, right? But there's a cutoff point, right? When it comes to up here, that's daddy, right? So you see there's something missing, right? But to go on the hero's journey, we have to cut mama off. She can't go, right? To live a full life, right? A life of meaning, you have to put mama in her place, right? You have to put her in her place. As a man, to go into manhood, you have to put mama in her place. It's a cutoff, right? Not only is mama milk a handicap to our development, right? Another one is a handicap to our development is our eyes and our ears. See, this is where father comes in later, because to help us train our eyes and our ears. Our ears are affected by grammar, and our eyes are affected by glamour. Grammar is words. Glamour is look, right? It's magic and spells, and I'll explain it to you in a second. This is the etymology of grammar, right? You can see incantations, you can see spells, mumbo jumbo. And because the male has stayed on mother's titty so long, and father is not there to develop the mind, grammar is taking the males off the path to manhood. Let me explain what I mean by that. So many guys are stuck in the world of words, grammar, talking points, statistics, debates, gender warring, Femininity, masculinity conversations, conversations about relationships, conversations about women's body counts, conversations about women's relationship status. That's grammar. That has nothing to do with the path. Talking points and quoting statistics all day. That has nothing to do with the path. Believe it or not, you are actually under the spell of the particular content creator because it has nothing to do with the path. You're full of ideals that have that are meaningless. Yeah, 50% of this and 70% of that. And what does that do? That's not even a tool in your toolbox for the path. None of those stats and statistics and data can be used on the hero's journey. None of it. It is grammar, right? And it finds the male in a good spot, right? A vulnerable spot, a spot where you're trying to figure out what to do with yourself, a spot where you got hella time on your hands, right? Where you just going from Instagram page to Instagram page or chat room to chat room or forum to forum. You think that you're being helped by the conversation and the articles that you read, but the only thing that you are getting is stats to death and data to death and women's hair and their makeup. Your life is being consumed about what you believe is female nature. Meanwhile, none of that is tools for the path. If you want to get yourself together right now, what does a stat have to do with any of it? Right? And what do you have to do with the stat? If 50% of something is whatever, what does it have to do with you? Right? If only 1% of people have something, why you can't be the 1%? See, all that grammar is spells, fam. Then you have the other one. So grammar affects our ears, right? Especially 18, 19, 20, 21, 25, and a lot of guys have been hurt. Why has a lot of guys been hurt? Carrying over this relationship with mama to their woman, right? So when the woman hurts the male, he goes ballistic because that's mama all over again. So he finds himself in these male improvement spaces, but there's no improvement going on. The grammar puts him back into a spell, right? And then you have glamour. You see, look at grammar, deals with magic, incantation, spells. Now we know grammar is language. And then you have glamour. Right? Magical beauty, alluring charm, enchantment. Now, what is glamour? Glamour is when women adorn themselves and the male can't control himself or what he's looking at. So he sees a woman and he wants to make a wife out of her because of glamour. This also takes a male off the path because glamour has nothing to do. You cannot use it in your toolbox because her value is not going to be on her face. Let me repeat that to you again. The woman's value is not on her face. Just like the value of all things on the planet come from inside of something, right? Trees come from inside of the earth. Children come from inside of the mother, right? Plants, vegetables come from inside of the earth. Rubber, glass, gold comes from inside of the earth. You have to peel an orange to get to its value. You have to cut a watermelon open to get to the value, right? So all value is stored and locked away inside of a shell. You have to crack the shell open to get to the value. Glamour deals with the outside. Glamour is the shell. The man's eyes is making the decisions for him because of glamour. Glamour is an illusion. Number one, that's not how that woman really looks. Number two, that's not who she is. Who she is located on the inside of her. And for you to recognize that, you will have to be looking through another set of eyes that are actually not physical eyes, that are internal eyes, right? You're going to have to feel the value. You're not going to be able to see it. That is a flaw in the male's development when we say, you know what, we like women that are hot. What does that mean? And I've done it, and I've made some huge mistakes because of glamour, right? And I've made huge mistakes because of grammar, especially coming from hip hop. That's all grammar, and it had me on the wrong path. Glamour also had me on the wrong path, thinking that the woman's value was in her eyelashes or in her lipstick or in her waist, but that ain't it though. Her value, like everything else, is on the inside of her head, in the inside of her body. Now, when you make decisions off of glamour, that takes you off the path to the hero's journey. Because the woman that you decide to choose is an asset to the path. What she has to offer are tools for the path. If your attention is on her, then you're now off the path. And if she uses her glamour to take you off the path, that is an act of war. In many relationships right now, currently, the glamour of the woman is taking the man off the path purposefully. And then once he's drained, right? Once he has nothing left, she uses her glamour again to pivot. And men are the real romantics, for real, for real. And a heartbreak on a man doesn't age well. So now he lost the woman and he has no purpose. That is the perfect blueprint for suicide. Right? Look what it says. Magic, enchantment, spell. This is a conversation for men, so I must say this. A woman's beauty to a man is a spell. You are under an illusion. You cannot see the human. That is a being with an agenda that has motivations and ideals, but you can't see that past glamour. Right? So while you're on your path, and we will read this on the hero's journey, while you're on your path, you're going to have to know discernment to know that this glamour that you're being shown, is this just a trick? Matter of fact, this is what a woman's beauty does to a man. When you look at Medusa, you are turned to stone. Looking at Medusa turns a man to stone. Focusing on a woman, on a woman's beauty, focusing on glamour also turns a man to stone. The thoughts that he thinks now are about how she looks, how she feels in bed. He cannot fathom another man looking at her. He gets possessive. All that energy was supposed to be used on the path. The path has nothing to do with anyone else. It is the hero's journey, right? You stare directly at Medusa, she turns you to stone, right? When you're staring at a woman's beauty, believe it or not, beloved, you are turning to stone, even though you are having a biological reaction because you are attracted, but you are being turned into stone. Now, if this woman asks you to try to shoot and kill concrete, you would try it. You would do it. I don't think you should work that much. You know what? You're right. You listen. Why? Because of glamour. The true woman, right, for you will be one that helps the path, not herself, the path. The true woman will find it offensive if you take your eyes off the path and put it on her. The true woman, for you specifically, beloved, is going to tell you when you're done the path. If you survive, I'll be here. Do not let glamour, spells of the eye, and grammar, spells of the ear, take you off your path. So grammar is a man's words. Glamour is how a woman looks. Get this in your head. Grammar is being used on you. It's the men's words, right? Glamour is how the woman looks. You got it? Glamour's looks, grammar's words. Men use words on you, which is grammar. Women use looks on you, which is glamour. They both take you off the path. And a pathless man is a dangerous man. Check. I want to talk about a word that, and our conversation today is man sharpens man, the hero's journey. We'll get into the hero's journey in a second. It's 17 principles to the hero's journey, and we're going to go over all 17. But I want to talk about a word that is not sexy, especially depending on the community that you come from. I want to talk about a word that is not attractive, and I don't really hear this word on my day-to-day. And the word is courage. It ain't a sexy word, you know. It's not a very hip word, but it's a word that has a lot of meaning to it, right? Courage. And the etymology of the word is valor. Quality of mind which enables one to meet danger and trouble without fear. That's what I said, right? You know, when you look like this, many of the males, they profess racism, white supremacy. We're oppressed, right? Police brutality. I got you. But the word that is never mentioned to solve the problem is courage. You can't legislate yourself out of some things sometimes. You can't content your way out of things sometimes. You can't march to try to appeal to people's moral conscience sometimes. Sometimes the only thing that's going to solve your problem is courage. Valor, another interesting word. The quality of mind which enables one to meet danger and trouble without fear. That means you go towards it. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying, because we're talking about the hero's journey. Courage is you going towards danger, towards the trouble. You have accepted what the possible outcome is of what you're doing, right? You're walking towards the danger. You're walking towards the thing that is bigger than you, stronger than you, more powerful than you. That's what courage is, right? Right? Courage is not fighting a little man, right? Courage is fighting a big man, more stronger, more skilled, right? A system, right? That is large, and you walk towards it. The reason why many gentlemen can't get to the hero's journey is because many of us, myself included, I was able to have sex and it didn't require me to have courage. I was sleeping with women and it didn't require me to have courage for anything. Right? They was attracted to me, I was attracted to them, but it sent the wrong signal to me. Right? I was able to get resources without having courage. I didn't have to go towards danger to get sexual access. I didn't have to go towards trouble to get sexual access. I didn't have to go towards danger to get resources. I got props in my life. Props. Without being courageous for things. I didn't have to show any courage for what I wanted. Do you know how many guys is like this right now? And you honestly expect the male to grow up and protect, right? And provide, right? That's courage to do that. Because sometimes when you're protecting, you have to go towards the danger. That's courage. To provide the things that the family needs to eat and might require you to go to a dangerous terrain. What if the child is sick and it needs a particular herb, but that herb is in enemy territory, or that herb is where dungeons and dragons and beasts are, right? Protecting and providing is not defensive, that's offensive. You can't do that without courage. You can't go take food out the lion's mouth and give it to your babies and your family without courage. Sex is the reward of courage. Props is the reward of courage. Resources is the reward of courage, because or else it doesn't mean anything. I've got followers in my life and I didn't have to show courage. I got shares without courage before. Right now, the men have citizenship in a country that gives them rights of free speech, right to bear arms, freedom of press, freedom of religion, without the males doing a courageous act. That's a problem, right? Our curse as guys is different than women, right? We have a different plight than women, right? We have a different curse. Their hero's journey is different. On the hero's journey, if I get sexual access with no courage, that undermines the path, right? If I get resources and I don't have to show any courage to get it, I get welfare, right? Do you know what that does to my mind? I get props. People tell me I'm hot shit. People tell me I'm that guy, and I didn't have to display courage anywhere. What is courage again? The quality of mind which enables. Listen to what it says. The quality of mind. Courage is mental. The quality of mind that enables one to meet danger and trouble without fear. Meet. That's go to. That's go to. And if you are from an urban market, let me tell you, understand, we're going to get into this, right? The hero's journey, you see the hero's journey in movies, right? The movie 300, based on like psychological development, for a certain group of men is telling the story that they're courageous. Because 300 went and met Xerxes, this most powerful army, right? Now, in these stories, you have to understand that the movie archetypes are real life archetypes. And I'm going to give you the way that the movies are broken down, because the hero's journey is based on narratology, right? And we're going to go over Joseph Campbell's template for the hero's journey. But when you're watching The Man of Steel or when you're watching Batman, you have to understand that in your life, you are experiencing the same thing, right? Hero, victim, guide, villain. That's what all movies are based on. Hero, victim, guide, villain. Right? And in movies, you see Superman has to show courage. Batman has to show courage. Logan has to show courage. They have to go to the problem. Right? John Connor, he has to go to Skynet. When you are doing that, I believe there's some alchemy going on inside of your body. Your cells they're turning into something. They're giving you what you need, right? You might be scared shitless, but when you're going to it, when you're having courage, you're starting to develop, right? This is why it's important to get off mama's milk. As long as that mama's milk is available, there's no need for courage. And we be grown like this, like me, 38 years old, without letting mama go. Because as long as that mama is there, as long as that milk is available, you never tap into courage. So in your life right now, you have to think, what role are you playing? Are you the hero? Are you the victim? Are you the villain? Are you the guide? Right? Now, the hero in the movie, let's say Braveheart, William Wallace, he's the hero. Right? The victim was Scotland. He wanted Scotland to be free, but he wanted to avenge his woman. Right? The villain is Edward Longshanks, or England. And the guide is anyone that shows up to provide you assistance along the way. That's your real life right now, right? But you have to decide who you are on that spectrum. Are you the victim or the hero, right? And what is your villain? And who are the guides? Now, remember, I told you, glamour on the hero's journey can be your villain as you're walking, right? The beauty, right? She's so beautiful. And you get off the path, right? Just a word of advice for the fellas out there. And take this from me, someone that did it from Maine to Spain. When you are on the path, right? If you're like, yo, what woman should I embrace? What woman should I have in my life? When you are on the hero's journey, the woman that you embrace in your life acts as an oracle, right? You might be wounded on the journey, and she stitches you up and she gives you something. And she tells you about the road ahead. She gives you the tools and an insight for the path. Now, you might beat the dragon and then come back and marry the woman, but you have to watch out for the one that tells you, hey, just lay in the bed with me. You don't got to go back on the journey. You can stay here with me. And many men stay. You say, I've come too far, right? I'm happy. You get scared because what if someone else on the journey finds her and they get her? Well, that's the risk that you have to take. But many of our fathers, that's what happened. They was on the path and a woman got them to stay, right? Glamour got them, right? It's going to be two types. She's either going to be a guide or this. It's going to be Medusa, right? And when a man looks at Medusa, he turns to stone. And if you pick a woman because of glamour, you turn to stone, right? So it's going to be two G's. She's either going to be a guide or it's going to be glamour. And you're going to have to be a man of understanding and wisdom on the process to be able to know the difference. What do you mean by this? What if you tell her no's and she agrees? Do you keep her? No to what exactly? Can you tell me? If she tells you no, to what? To staying? Right? If you tell her no, see, the thing is, the guide would never ask you to stay. Right? The real woman for you on the path would be offended if you choose her over the path. See the difference? Oh, okay. All right. If she asks you to lay up and you say no and go on the journey, but she agrees with that as well, she won't ask you to lay up. That's the thing. She won't ask you to lay up. She's not going to ask. Right? If you lay up and you stay and she knows that you picked her over the path, what do you think that does to her mind? Sure, the relationship in the beginning will be hot and spicy, right? But you got to understand, glamour got you there and she knows it. And then one day she takes a washcloth and does this to her face. Glamour gone. Human shows up. Right? And then you know what she's going to hit you with? I didn't ask you to stay. No one told you to stay. Quick. And it's going to crush you because you're going to lose the girl and you messed up your path. Because the man that she sees that walks by her home and she says, hey, and he says, get behind me, Satan. She's going to be like, damn, I like him. She's not going to ask you to get off the path. Right? That's how you'll know. Right? And many men, because I did too, right? I can raise my hand and say I have chose women over my path before, and I always lost, right? But let me tell you why. Mama taught me to do that. I was following mama. Mama's milk told me to put the woman first, not the path. Let me tell you something. If you go on the path and you come back from the path and there are no women left, right? You have something more valuable than any man has. Let me say that again. If you go on the path and you come back, you don't have no one to share it with, and there's no woman left because they're all occupied with someone, you are in possession of something that no other man has. You can live with that. It don't walk away. When you go on the path and you find what you're looking for, it doesn't walk away. It doesn't get a period. It doesn't have an attitude, right? It can't take you to child support, right? It can't divorce you. That's yours. You earned that, right? You went towards the danger. Courage. Put that word in your lexicon, because it's a word that's applied to other men. It's not applied to those that look like this. Real niggas apply. You know what I'm saying? I like questions. If you can answer just, what if these women are choosing you if you were unfazed by their glamour and they pursued you? What does it mean, though? What does it mean? How did they choose you? What fee did they pay? Choosing comes with a fee. What's the fee? What does she give that she can't get back? Choosing has a fee. You know how when you come to a door, you have to say a password, right? You have to give up something. How do you know you were chosen, right? She has to give something that she cannot get back. She has to take a risk. How are you chose? Anybody could like you. Prove it, right? Right? Because it's the same concept of a dude making millions of dollars, right? And he gets caught up with a chick with $5 spandex on and a $5 shirt. Not saying that her outfit has to be expensive, because she can bring another type of value, but she doesn't do anything. Nothing. Right? Nothing but glamour. You can choose up with loyalty. You could choose up with resources. You could choose up with relics and artifacts. You can choose up with bold behavior. But if you are a man that goes on the hero's journey and you come back and you let not just women, anybody in your space without a fee, that's an L. Because you are the genuine article. Do you know where you just came from? But the thing about the hero's journey, I must warn you, it's lonely. And it's lonely for that reason. Because it's hard to kick it now. Cellularly, you're not the same person. But matter of fact, let's get into it, right? So just remember, hero, victim, guide, villain. The hero's journey is based on narratology. All right. So we're going to get into that right now. It's 17 stages of the hero's journey. And if you guys are up tonight, we are going to get into it right now. And this is based off Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, 1949. Another word for the hero's journey is monomyth. The monomyth. All right. In narratology and comparative mythology, the hero's journey, or the monomyth, is the common template of stories that involve a hero who goes on an adventure, is victorious in a decisive crisis, and comes home changed or transformed. All right. So let's get into it. And don't just listen to me read, identify where you're at, because this, even though this is based on narratology, it's based on the process and growth of development as a man. So number one, the call to adventure. Number one, the call to adventure. The hero begins in a situation of normality from which some information is received that acts as a call to head off to the unknown, according to Campbell. This is the writer, the Hero with 1,000 Faces, okay? A distant land, forest, a kingdom, underground, beneath the waves, or above the sky, a sacred island, lofty mountaintops, a profound dream state, but is always a place of strangely fluid and polymorphous beings, unimaginable torments, superhuman deeds, and impossible delight. The hero can go forth of their own volition to accomplish the adventure, as did Theseus when he arrived in his father's city, Athens, and heard the horrible history of the Minotaur, or they that had been carried or sent abroad by some benign or malignant agent, as was Odysseus, driven from the Mediterranean by the winds of the anger god Poseidon. The adventurer may begin as a mere blunder, or still again, one may be only casually strolling when some passing phenomenon catches the wandering eye and lures one away from the frequent paths of man. All right. So the call to an adventure, for a lot of men in the past, the call to adventure was going to war, Vietnam, Korean War, right? And you came back and you was a hero, but that's where you found yourself. It says a distant land, a forest, a kingdom underground, beneath the waves, above the sky, a sacred island, lofty mountaintops. And if you notice, in all of the heroic movies, that's the theme. But it's not just a movie. We are called to adventure in our own life. This is why we have to get off of mama's milk. We are all called on some type of an adventure. Many of us don't take it, and that's the next one. Number two. So I got it up here too, if you want to write it down. So you got the call to action, a call to adventure, and then you have number two, refusal of the call. A lot of men are broken because of this. The refusal of the call. What is that? Often when a call is given, the future hero first refuses to heed it. This may be born from a sense of duty or obligation, fear, insecurity, a sense of inadequacy, or any of the range of reasons that work to hold the person in his current circumstances. Refusal of the summon converts the adventure into its negative. Walled in boredom, hard work, or culture, the subject loses the power of significant affirmative action and becomes a victim to be saved. His flowering world becomes a wasteland of dry stones, and his life feels meaningless. No, like King Minos, he may, through titanic effort, succeed in building an empire of renown. Whenever house he builds, it will be a house of death. A lot of men's testosterone is low right now because they are refusing the call. The adventure is calling and you're refusing it. And it's making you lose your hair. It's making your energy low. It's making you unambitious because you're refusing the call of the adventure. You have to let mama go. And because many males now are refusing the call, remember what we talked about, grammar and glamour? This is how these dating cultures or these male platforms that profess of self-improvement, right? But they're talking about women with glamour. And the reason why it's growing and developing is because men are refusing the call to adventure. You're not going anywhere. Because how could you listen to a dating coach? And I'm not mad at them for selling. I'm questioning you because you have to go on the path. And that doesn't require dating. That is not a tool on the path. You never see that in any heroic tales. But what you do see him is refuse the call. And he's a shell of himself after that. He's broken after that. Right? Remember, courage. All right. So number one was 1 second. Number one was the call to adventure. Number two is refusing the call. Now, this is 17 steps to the hero's journey. And just a quick shameless plug, I do this shit. That's neither here nor there. Number three, supernatural aid. Once the hero has committed to the quest, consciously or unconsciously, their guide, magical helper, appears or becomes known. More often than not, this supernatural mentor will present the hero with one or more talismans or artifacts that will aid them later in their quest. What such a figure represents is benign, protecting power of destiny. The fantasy is a reassurance promise that the peace of paradise, which was known first within the mother womb, is not to be lost, that it supports the present and stands in the future as well as the past. That though omnipotence may seem to be endangered by the threshold passages and life awakenings, protective power is always and ever present within or just behind the unfamiliar features of the world. One has only to know and trust, and the ageless guardians will appear, having responded to their own call and following the fellow courageously as the consequence unfold. The hero finds all the forces of the unconscious are on their side. Mother Nature herself supports the mighty task, and in so far the hero's act coincides with that for which their society itself is ready. They seem to ride on the great rhythm of the historical process. All right. So when you go, right? Remember I told you about the guide. The guide shows up. Okay. Number 4, the crossing of the first threshold. The crossing of the first threshold. This is the point where the hero actually crosses into the field of adventure, leaving the known limits of their world and venturing into an unknown and dangerous realm where the rules are and limits are unknown. With the personifications of his destiny to guide and aid him, the hero goes forward in the adventure until he comes to the threshold guardian. At the entrance of the zone of magnified power, such custodians bound the world in 4 directions, also up and down, standing for the limits of the hero's present fear or life horizon. Beyond them is darkness, the unknown and danger. Just as beyond the parental watch is a danger to the infant and beyond the protection of his society, danger to the members of the tribe. The usual person is more than content. He is often proud to remain within the indicated bounds, and popular beliefs gives him reason to fear so much as the first step into the unexplored. The adventure is always and everywhere a passage beyond the veil of the known into the unknown. The powers that watch at the boundaries are dangerous to deal with and to deal with them is risky. Yet for anyone with the competence and courage, the danger fades. You see the word courage again. The word courage applies to those on the hero's journey. It can't apply to anyone else. Courage is for those walking this path right here. Right? So number one in the 17 steps to the hero's journey is the call to adventure. You have to accept the call. Number two, the refusal of the call. When you refuse the call, it breaks you down. You lose everything. Many men are low in energy right now because they're refusing the call, whatever that call seems to be. Everyone hero's journey looks different, but the archetypes and the ingredients are kind of the same. Supernatural aid, the guide, the inspiration, things that you got from prayer and fasting. Some people say they're ancestors, right? They come to aid the hero on the journey. And you see this show up in every movie, but it's not just movies. This is our real life, right? The crossing of the first threshold. Now you have decided to go on the journey. You got up, right? If you really want to understand the hero's journey, watch The Lion King. The character in Simba, what they wrote, he definitely goes through it. Rafiki is the spiritual guide. Scar is the villain, right? The victim is the pride. You see how Rafiki was the spiritual guide? Yeah. Then you have number 5, the belly of the whale. The belly of the whale represents the final separation from the hero's known world and self. By entering this stage, the person shows willingness to undergo a metamorphosis. When first entering the stage, the hero encounter a minor danger or setback. Let's read that again, man. The belly of the whale. The belly of the whale represents the final separation from the hero's known world and self. By entering the stage, the person shows a willingness to undergo a metamorphosis. When first entering the stage, the hero may encounter a minor danger or setback. The ideal that the passage of the magical threshold is a transit into the sphere of rebirth is symbolized in the worldwide womb image of the belly of the whale. The hero, instead conquering and conciliating the power of the threshold, is swallowed into the unknown and would appear to have died. Popular motif emphasizes to the lesson that the passage of the threshold is a form of self-annihilation. Instead of passing outward beyond the confines of the visible world, the hero goes inward to be born again. The disappearance corresponds to the passing of a whisper into the temple, where he is to be quickened by the recollection of who and what he is, namely dust and ashes unless immortal. The temple interior, the belly of the well, and the heavenly land beyond, above, below, that confines the world are one and the same. This is why the approaches of and entrances to the temple are flanked by colossal gargoyles, the 2 rows of teeth that are equivalent to the 2 rows of teeth of the whale. The fact that the devotee at the moment of entry, the temple undergoes a metamorphosis. Once inside, he may be said to have died to time and return to the world womb, the world navel, the earthly paradise. Allegorically, then, the passage into a temple and to the hero drive through the jaws of the whale are adventures, both denoting in picture language, then life-centering, life reenact in a life-renewing act. This is all initiation. This is what initiation looks like. And matter of fact, the next one is initiation, right? This is all what initiation looks like. So when I talk about that, and man are different, right? It's based on these things. This is basically giving you a straight blueprint to manhood. It's conceptual though. It's not something that happens when you get a beard. It's not something that happens when you have sex. It's something different. Every single thing that I'm talking about is a basically compass to your path and to go through the process of man development. You have to go through the be in the well, right? You have to accept the call, right? You have to let's keep going. That's number 5. Number 6, the road of trials. You see how hard it is to be a man? It is difficult to be a man, yo. To say that you want to be a man has more. Let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a high value man. You can only be man. Being man is hard enough, especially if you're going on the hero's journey. There's no high value man. No, listen, once you go on the hero's journey and you win, it doesn't matter if you lose a job or a car. That can never be taken from you what you achieved. There's no such thing as a high value man. It's just man. You know why I cap it there? Is because man is so valuable and so much of an achievement. Everybody is not going to achieve that. So you don't got to put something extra. Oh, no, high value man. No. Just man. That's the most valuable a male can become is man. The road of trials is a series of tests that the hero must undergo to begin the transformation. Often the hero fails one or more of these tests, which often occur in threes. Y'all hear that? The road of trials. Many of you might be in this space right now. Listen to this. The road of trials is a set of tests that the hero must undergo to begin the transformation. Often the hero fails one or more of these tests, which often occur in threes. Eventually, the hero will overcome these trials and move to the next step. Once have traversed the threshold, the hero moves in a dream landscape of curiously fluid, ambiguous forms where he must survive a succession of trials. This is a favorite phase of the myth adventure. It has produced a world of literature of miraculous tests and ordeals. The hero is conveniently aided by the advice, amulets, and secret agents of supernatural helper whom he met before his entrance into the region. Or may it be that there here is discoveries for the first time that there is a benign power everywhere supporting him in his superhuman passage. The original departure into the land of trials represented only the beginning of the long and really perilous path of initiatory conquest and myths of illumination. Dragons have now to be slain and surprising barriers passed again, and again. Meanwhile, there will be a multitude of preliminary victories, unsustainable ecstasies, and momentary glimpses of the wonderful land. This is the blueprint to manhood. That's number 6. Number 7, the meeting with the goddess. Ooh. This is where the gains items given to him that will help him in the future. The ultimate adventure, when all the barriers and ogres have been overcome, is commonly represented as a mystical marriage of the triumphant hero soul with the queen goddess of the world. This is the crisis at the nadir, the zenith, at the outermost edge of the earth, at the central point of the cosmos, in the tabernacle of the temple, or within the darkness of the deepest chamber of the heart. The meeting of the goddess who is incarnate in every woman is the final test of the talent of the hero to win the boon of love, which is life itself enjoyed as the encasement of eternity. And when the adventurer in the context is not a youth, but a maid, she is one who, by her qualities, her beauty, her yearning, is fit to become the consort of an immortal. Then the heavenly husband descends to her and conducts her to his bed, whether she will or not. And if she has shunned him, the scales fall from her eyes. If she has sought him, her desire finds its peace. That was a lot of word salad, but this is example of Tinkerbell in Hook. Tinkerbell is Peter's goddess. She's a guide. You can do it, Peter. Right? She was his guide, right? But they couldn't be together for obvious reasons. She's a fairy, right? But Tinkerbell is an example of meeting with the goddess. Number 7, woman as the temptress. In this step, the hero faces those temptations, often of a physical and pleasurable nature, that may lead them to abandon or stray from their quest. Didn't I just say that? Didn't I? That glamour takes the male off the path. I just said that, right? In this step, the hero faces those temptations, often of a physical and pleasurable nature, that may lead them to abandon or stray from their quest, which does not necessarily have to be represented by a woman. A woman is a metaphor for the physical or material temptations of life, since the hero knight was often tempted by lust from his spiritual journey. The crux of the curious difficulty lies in the fact that our conscious views of what life ought to be seldom correspond to life really is. Generally, we refuse to admit within ourselves or within our friends the fullness of that pushing, self-protective, malodorous, carnivorous, lecherous fever, which is the very nature of the organic cell. Rather, we tend to perfume, whitewash, and reinterpret, meanwhile imagining that all flies in the ointment, all the hairs in the soup, all the faults of the sun. Okay, I'm not reading all that. That's just the commentary. Okay, so the woman as the temptress can be anything, right? But for many of us, it is the woman. Okay, read that again. In this step, the hero faces those temptations, often of a physical or pleasurable nature, that may lead them to abandon or stray from their quest, which does not necessarily have to be presented by a woman. A woman is a metaphor for the physical or material temptations of life, since the hero knight was often tempted by lust from his spiritual journey. When you're on the path, watch out for grammar and glamour. Remember, grammar are the words of men. Glamour is the looks of women, right? Our eyes and our ears have to work for us, not against us. Number 9, atonement with the Father or abyss. In this step, the hero must confront and be initiated by whatever holds the power in their life. In many myths and stories, this is the father or father figure who has life and death power. This is the center point of the journey. All the previous steps have been moving into this place. All that follow will move out from it. Although this step is most frequently symbolized by an encounter with a male entity, it does not have to be a male, just someone or something with incredible power. Man, so many gems. Let me read that again. In this step, this is atonement with the Father/abyss. In this step, the hero must confront and be initiated by whatever holds the ultimate power in their life. In many myths and stories, this is the father or father figure who has life and death power. This is the center point of the journey. All the previous steps have moving into this place. All that follow will move out from it. Although this step is most frequently symbolized by an encounter with a male entity, it does not have to be a male, just someone or something with incredible power. Number 10 in the hero's journey. This is called Apotheosis. And apotheosis means apotheosis, also called divinization or deification, is the glorification of a subject to divine levels and commonly the treatment of a human being or any other living thing. So basically, apotheosis is elevating a human or animal to a divine level, to where you deify it. Okay, just for those that never heard the word apotheosis. Apotheosis means this is the point of realization in which a greater understanding is achieved. Armed with this new knowledge and perception, the hero is resolved and ready for more difficult parts of the adventure. Okay. We are at number 11 in the 7 stages of the hero's journey. This is the ultimate boon. The ultimate boon. This means the ultimate boon is the achievement of the goal of the quest. It is what the hero went on a journey to get. All the previous steps serves to prepare and purify the hero for this step, since in many myths the boon is something transcendent, like the elixir of life itself, or a plant that supplies immortality, or the Holy Grail. The ultimate boon. The ultimate boon is the achievement of the goal of the quest. It is what the hero went on a journey to get. All the previous steps serve to prepare and purify the hero for this step, since in many myths the boon is something transcendent, like elixir or life, like the elixir of life itself, or the plant that supplies immortality, or the Holy Grail. So I know everything that I'm reading, I know you see this show up in all the movies that you like. Lord of the Rings, Transformers, Indiana Jones, same thing. The key thing is, though, that's you. Right? Moving right along. We are at number 12 of the 17 stages of the hero's journey. And this is refusal of the return. So you got there, now you don't want to come back. Having found bliss and enlightenment in the other world, the hero may not want to return to the ordinary world to bestow the boon onto fellow beings. Right? Is when the hero quest has been accomplished through penetration to the source or through grace of some form or male. I don't like their commentary. Okay. But it says, having found bliss and enlightenment in the other world, the hero may not want to return to the ordinary world to bestow the boon onto their other fellows. So you don't. That's what happens on the hero's journey. You found it. Now you like, nah, I want to come back. You don't found the mushroom for Mario Brothers. You like, nah, man, I don't want to come back. Even though it can make everybody else big, even though, you know, you gotta go home, you gotta go back to reveal the revelation, the word or the elixir or the mushroom or the plant. You have to go back to the tribe. You have to go back to the nation, right? Because if you don't come back, then the hero's journey is it never happened, right? So there's a refusal to return. You're like, no, this is great. Right? But you got to go back. Number 13. Right? This is called the magic of flight. Sometimes the hero must escape with the boon if it is something that the gods have been jealously guarding. It can be just as adventurous and dangerous returning from the journey as it was going. Listen to this. You got that elixir, you got that plant, you got that Mario mushroom. But here's the thing. Sometimes the hero must escape if it is something that the gods have been jealously guarding. It can be just as adventurous and dangerous returning from the journey as it was to go on it. Okay. Number 14, rescue from without. Just as the hero may need guides and assistance to set out on the quest, often they must have powerful guides and resources to bring them back to everyday life, especially if the person has been wounded or weakened by the experience. All right? So now you completely understand how movies are written. The Justice League, Avengers, everything about the Avengers is based on these principles and concepts right here. Batman, Superman, Wolverine, anything you can mention. Marvel follows this script totally. But the interesting thing about following the script, this happens to deal with the development of male to man, right? So we are at number 15. The returning of the so this is the returning of the crossing of the return threshold. The returning hero to complete his adventure must survive the impact of the world. The trick in returning is to retain the wisdom gained on the quest, to integrate that wisdom into human life, and then maybe figure out how to share the wisdom with the rest of the world. Woo, that is super hard. That's difficult. That's hard right there. The crossing of the return threshold. The returning hero to complete his adventure must survive the impact of the world. The trick in returning is to retain the wisdom gained on the quest, to integrate that wisdom into human life, and then maybe figure out how to share the wisdom with the rest of the world. A lot of us are there right now. Right? You're like, man, F these niggas, man. They ain't trying to learn. They ain't trying to level up, man. Yeah, I'm tired of teaching them, blah, blah, blah. See, you on the hero's journey right now. You have crossed a certain threshold and you don't really know how to share this information with other people. They don't want it. They don't get it, right? So you keep it to yourself, right? That's an example of the hero's journey. You're going through it right now. You can't share certain things with your mom. You can't share certain things with your community. You have went and seen things, done things, crossed certain thresholds, and you have tried to go back to share it, and it's not received. That's part of the hero's journey. So you're living it right now without even knowing it. Number 16, master of the two worlds. For a human hero, it may mean achieving a balance between the spiritual. The person has become comfortable and competent in both the inner and outer worlds. That's difficult too, right? Sometimes you get so spiritual that you like, man, money don't matter, all this material shit, blah, 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 right? And then you could be so material that you don't activate your inner man, right? So the key is to balance these two things. Don't be too enlightened and don't be too greedy, right? Have a balance. And then the last one, this is the last one of the 17 stages to the hero's journey. Freedom to live. I like this one a lot. In this step, mastery leads to freedom from fear of death, which in turn is the freedom to live. This is sometimes referred to as living in the moment, neither anticipating the future nor regretting the past. Wow. Listen to this, man. Freedom to live, right? Because you done did all that. You know what I mean? Now you have just came to this moment in your life where you're just like, yo, freedom to live. And this step, mastery leads to freedom from fear of death, which in turn is freedom to live. This is sometimes referred to as living in the moment, neither anticipating the future nor regretting the past. And that is the 7 stages of the hero's journey. So when I'm referencing the hero's journey, you know exactly where I'm coming from, right? I'm gonna put this in the chat. You could also check out Joseph Campbell's work. Some of that commentary is reading. You know, he has a different writing style that I can read better silent, but you can use this as a starting point to the hero journey. Well, at least write down the 17, you know, and use it for yourself, because this has everything to do with you, right? This is the male to man process, right? This is the male to man process. So what did we learn? What did we learn? To even get on the hero's journey, what is the first thing you really got to do? The hardest thing that you have to do, the thing that might seem treasonous, right? It might seem like you're not on code. What is the first thing that you have to do to get on, to even step foot on the hero's journey? Courage, for sure. Anything else? There was something that before courage that we touched on, though, that even to get to courage, right? Something else has to happen. You have to remove yourself from something. You have to divest or divorce yourself from something. What is that something again? Something that is very, you know, it's painful. Separation from all. Yeah. Be more specific. There we go. Mama's milk. Right? If you don't separate from mama's milk, right? If you don't separate from mama's milk, then this will be your relationships. And you'll be replacing mama's milk with every woman that you find, right? And while she's feeding you this bottle, she's taking you off the path. She's telling you to lay there. She's telling you don't go. It's dangerous. Right? She's crying and she's weeping, just like mama did. And you got to be able to be immune to mama's tears. And you got to be able to be immune to your woman's tears as well. Because the hero's journey is more important than her. And it's more important than mama. It's because if you don't do this, you'll never be whole. If you don't go on the path, you'll never be right. It doesn't matter about the money that you get, right? If you don't go on the hero's journey, you'll be caught in the life and death cycle, trying to figure out why the hell are you here? Why am I doing this over? I keep having deja vu, like I've been to this life before, and you have, right? Right? Now, I'm not saying if you go on the hero's journey, you're going to survive. I'm not saying that you're not going to get bruised. I'm not saying that you're not going to take losses. You will. But that's part of the 17 stages of the hero's journey. You have to get off mama's milk, right? It was good for us as a child, but is a handicap for us to become a man. And don't let no woman tell you what you do for her is what makes you a man. Blasphemy. Blasphemy. It's the path that makes you a man. She ain't got shit to do with it. You a man regardless if she there or not. She's replaceable. The path is not replaceable. Get behind me, Satan. So this is the first part of our series of Man Sharpens Man. Today we dealt with the hero's journey, right? So please, 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 join us again as we continue this series, right? We're going to do this 5 parts. Man sharpens man. Conversation for men. Women can listen, but it's for men. So if you have a brother, share this with him. Share this with your hubby. Share this with your son, right? Because if you have a generation of men off the path, believe it or not, it affects everybody. Feel me? As always, man, I don't know what you expect. Now we come to the part where you expect me to do some, superhuman type of shit. You expect me to have these amazing powers and ability like Marvel and DC characters. But hey, man, I'm great at a lot, but I don't have none of those abilities, right? I'm just a nigga with some fire ass hair. Until next time, man, walk your path. Peace.
Thing is game. It's like, remember we was all back in high school? Some of you may be still in high school or whatever, but follow me. We had the regular class and then you had honors class. And I feel like Ken Billion's game is nothing but honors class. Everything that you learned in life and been through in life, or whatever he's talking about at that certain time. And, like point of reference, game for guys. Everybody learn game from somebody, and this and that, and it's all over the place. But once I listened to Game for Guys, it was like being in an honors class. Ken is a brilliant guy. I still listen to him to this day. Listen to him almost every other day, and I stay studying. And if I look at a video and he's giving us homework, I'm gonna look through that video. I'm gonna write my notes down. I'm gonna do my homework. Then I'm gonna watch the next video. I mean, you just can't get enough of the game and the knowledge that this brother brings to you. He's allowed me to look back into history, my own history. I found out about black people that I never even knew about, black millionaires and people like that. Recently, I learned about the reticular activating system, and that's something that I'm studying up on as we speak. Which I plan on reprogramming myself. You know what I'm saying? So overall, the Ken Billion's game has done a lot for me. It's allowed me to elevate as a man, as a father. It just allowed me to be more excited about life and not be in the program of being oppressed. And that's one of the main things for me that I have to say that this game has done for me. I'm so glad that I ran across it.